This is the penultimate round of this Season 4 of F1 24 Career Mode, and following last episode, well, it's really set up a quite contentious ending with a double disaster for Ferrari in the sprint race, with Carlos Sainz and Leclerc suffering engine failures, and that carried over with engine penalties then for the full Grand Prix. Things were looking unbelievable. This at the same time as us installing 5 ultimate upgrades at the same time. It was a 1-2 for Toyota. Tsunoda led us, and as we started to charge down Yuki, Leclerc still down in P16, unable to recover from the engine failure. But Lady Luck, the Formula 1 gods, had a different idea, and we were struck down with our own engine failure on lap 19 of the full Grand Prix, and that leaves things a little bit up in the air for the last 2 episodes, because that was our second and final energy store that went. We actually already had one energy store fail on us earlier in the season, and you only get 2 of these, so the other one that was still working went kaput. So we now have to go outside of the pool that we're allowed, the allocation, so we will be taking a penalty for the energy store, and because of that, I also might then take a double whammy hit and get a brand new ICE, because I've only got one pretty okay one left, which is about 48%, I think. The rest of my internal combustion engines are all over 60% worn, and going into that final race, Las Vegas, we know straight line speed is going to be very important. I'm thinking back to last season where we were fighting Leclerc, and that last race decided everything, so I feel like we want the best engine possible for that final race. We have to take a penalty for the energy store because we have to go outside our pool. So if we're doing that, we've got the best car on the grid by far now, of course, with those 5 ultimate upgrades. We may as well tactically get the best, freshest ICE at the same time. And you know, we've done this sort of tactical penalty taking before in previous seasons, previous F1 games in career mode, because it makes sense to stack the penalties. You see that in real life. How many times have you seen Red Bull and Verstappen take their penalties stacked at Spa? Of course, Portimao maybe not the best, you know, it's not like a Spa where, you know, overtaking I think is a lot easier at Spa compared to Portimao, but on the game, we've gone very well at Portimao before, and just the fact that our car is that much better on the R&D chart, I think it's a no-brainer to try and play this tactically to just get the best engine we've got possible then for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. But saying all of that, I'm speaking as if we're desperate to try and pull a blinder. We're in a very comfortable spot, you know, so really it's just a case of going through the motions. We have to take one penalty at least and make our way through. Lando Norris now is the nearest man to us in the championship with 2 third places in a row. Leclerc a bit wobbly in the last race, of course, with the engine failure in the sprint and outside of the points in the full Grand Prix. So out of nowhere, the McLaren driver, my old teammate from Season 1 and Season 2, is the nearest challenger to us, but it's technically then a 3-way Drivers' Championship fight, and I'm hoping as a team we at Toyota can close to Ferrari. We're only a couple of points off them now, I think it is, in the Constructors' Championship, and this is why I'm you know, confident of what we can do here with the penalties, and I'm confident, as I said at the end of the last episode, as a team to catch Ferrari, because we've got that overwhelming performance, the 5 ultimate upgrades, a huge leap in the R&D chart, and as I said, we've actually always gone quite well at Portimao. Can be a little bit tricky to know what the right strategy is around here with the tyre wear, but of course this Toyota has been very good on its tyres, so I think that will play into our thinking of, oh, we can probably just flex our muscles and go a bit longer into the race if we are going to be starting further back down the order. And then it's a case of, I guess, well, hopefully Tsunoda now, having become a first-time F1 race winner in Sao Paulo, won the sprint, won the full Grand Prix. I'm hoping, you know, as an AI teammate, he just has now that overwhelming momentum to go and dominate from the front. I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't, as we're now into qualifying then. Bit of a, hollow qualifying for us. We're going to set a lap time just to kind of see where we're at, but I'm not pushing flat out, to be honest. I'm not trying to do anything too crazy, in case I crash the car or whatever. We're just going through and seeing where we are. P3 right now. Leclerc performs very well in a time where he needs to, but by the end of this session, my jaw's on the floor a little bit, to be fair, because where has this come from? For Lewis Hamilton in the Red Bull Ford, he has got a shock pole position after a couple of races of really not performing too well, and Verstappen coming good again. Hamilton shows a bit of form from the first part of this season where he was actually the lead Red Bull driver. He's beaten Tsunoda, who is 0.056 off, but look how close things are. Only 3/10, I say only, 3/10 to Leclerc then in P3. Sainz is up there, Lando's up there ahead of me in P5. We're P7. It says apparently we only have a 10-place penalty, but I'm a bit confused at that because I'm sure with two components taken, that would be a 20-place penalty. So we'll see how that goes. If it ends up being a 10-place, that's even better for us then. P17, just a couple of more less positions we have to overtake. But that's a bit surprising that Tsunoda hasn't got pole, and it's not by a massive margin. So maybe Brazil masked how good those upgrades were. Maybe Portimao as a circuit just brought stuff close together. I don't know. It's a bit of a head scratcher that, because no rain involved for this qualifying session, but there might be some rain involved for the race tomorrow, so that's going to certainly spice things up. So a lot of question marks then as we go into the grid for the Portuguese Grand Prix.
The Formula One circus has made its way to the southern coast of Portugal this week and is preparing for what I think will be a terrific race here in Portimao. So Portimao features 15 turns over the course of its 2.9-mile length. 9 are right-handers, 6 are to the left. This is a track with a lot of uphill action, which only accentuates the importance of getting those exits right, especially at turn 4, where a good line can present opportunities to pass on the way into turn 5. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Yuki Tsunoda completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Norris, Verstappen, Perez, Hülkenberg, Sargent, Stroll, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Behrman, Albon, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Zhou, Vesti, and an RB rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And alongside me in the commentary box today, former racing driver herself, Naomi Schiff. Let's look at their season, and particularly against their teammate. Fair to say, they've got the better of them more often than not. Now, sadly, things didn't work out for them last time. It was a bad race. Question is, though, can they recover today?
It is true, they had a really tough day in the office last time out, but they cannot dwell on that. It's so important to turn the page and start on a blank slate, because the more you dwell on that, the less it's going to push you in the right direction. So take some notes. Obviously, there's things to be learned, but move on.
When it rains, it pours for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari, it would seem, at least in this season, because the reigning world champion, well, he's not even up in the top 5. He has taken another set of engine penalties from Brazil into Portimao. That is going to be tough. He finds himself again in the traffic outside the top 10. And if Sao Paulo is anything to go by, Leclerc will struggle to get through that traffic. So it may not be a high-scoring race for him. That's great for us. But of course, remember, the nearest man to me in the championship now is Lando Norris, and he is up there, and he's going from strength to strength. He's been consistent, 2 third places. He's up there. The McLaren's looking a bit better in recent races, so we've got to keep an eye on him. But really, our job is just to maximise what we can with the best car on the grid here. It is going to rain later. I double check, and Mark says we're only a few laps out. I chose the medium tyre because according to the strategy screen, it looked like maybe we'd need mediums to get to that wet period, but with Mark saying rain only a few laps out, maybe the soft tyre would have been the better way to go from last place, which we are, by the way, in last, as you can clearly tell. So that wasn't a 10th-place penalty. It was a full back of the grid penalty for those 2 component changes, but that won't change my mentality. It is going to be go, 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 and try to maximize this, and we'll... I suppose at the end of the race, see where Lando ends up, see where Leclerc is. But right now, just keeping focus on myself as we line up and rev up for the penultimate round of this season as we all look to those 5 little red lights. And we're underway for the Portuguese Grand Prix. It's a bit of a timid start for us. The 2 Audis actually get a good getaway, attacking Ricciardo, and Vesti blocking off my left-hand side space there. We're trying to navigate our way through as one of the Audis breaks its front wing. Hamilton leads the way still. Sainz second. Tsunoda has lost a couple of positions. What is going on as we try and get the power down? The rear end is proper loosey-goosey. We nearly get hit off the road by Daniel Ricciardo. Grip is very low, it would seem. The overcast conditions making the circuit very cold and treacherous to navigate as it's Perez versus Verstappen that go down the crest. Hamilton, though, leads the way off pole position. Sainz second. Lando up to 3rd now. So that is big for him. That is big for his championship chances. Leclerc has actually also made some moves. He's now up 1 position, up to P12, I think that is. But Tsunoda, that's the biggest loser of this start. It just didn't get underway. He actually missed time throttling. It sounded like Yuki completely bottles it off the front row. He's lost 5 positions by the time he gets to turn 1. That is the opposite of what we needed. Having just won the sprint and Grand Prix back-to-back at Sao Paulo, you would have thought that sort of error would just not happen. He would have that AI momentum going on for him, that focus level. But no, the opposite here. So maybe the pressure of having to perform up front whilst I'm at the back maybe got to him as we overtake Ricciardo finally. And the car is starting to come alive a little bit. But yeah, definitely the circuit's a little bit less grippy than you would want with the overcast conditions and the rain on the way, of course. So we just need to try and to get into a bit of a groove. There's a big train ahead as I think one car had a bit of damage and actually pit early. Don't know who it was, but it held everyone up here, and that's now released Leclerc into a bit of free air as we get Fernando Alonso, catch him napping a little bit in the hairpin, now closing up to our most recent former teammate, George Russell, in the other Mercedes car, and hopefully not going to make it too much of a bother, but something tells me he definitely will as we have a little look to the inside, but he shuts the door. He's one of very few on the soft compounder tyre, so he will be quick in the corners. Hamilton also one of the others on softs, and he's going really well. 1.7 the gap. Hamilton broken DRS, and he is walking away with this initially in this first stint. Verstappen, his teammate, looking to join him up front as he makes the move. Well, not 1, but 2. Verstappen gets a 2-for-1 on the Ferrari and the McLaren into turn 1. Incredible stuff from the Dutchman. It's a 1-2 now for Red Bull Ford as we try to go down the inside of Russell. We get the move, a little bit inspired maybe by a couple of these aggressive passes going on at the front at the start of the lap, and we're up into P14 now. Still ages, it seems, away from points paying positions, but it's only lap 4. We've got plenty of this race to go, and it's just about patience and trying to go for the moves when they open up, not doing anything rash, because we're in the position with a big points gap. So we're the ones, it's ours to lose in terms of, if we do something stupid and break our car, that's completely on us then, and we don't need to be desperate. And you can see that there. We just got 2 passes done, almost in the same way as Verstappen, but it was a lot more pedestrian because we've got that car underneath us. But now the rain has started to fall. You can see those droplets streaking over the halo and the top of the chassis on this onboard on lap 7, and things are getting a little bit precarious over the curves into some corners, having to lift off a bit earlier and just watch the throttle. But we continue on, but signal to our team when we do come in, obviously we of course want the intermediate tyres. Leclerc and Piastri ahead of me, they've already pit, and maybe for good reason, as we have a massive snap of oversteer. The cars in the gravel, we've kept it going in a straight line, and we keep it back on circuit now. Bit of gravel on the tyres, but that could have been a lot worse, because you're going so fast through that left-hander. You know, it's flat out in the dry, and the wall is not too far away, and there's been previous F1 games where I've gone steaming into that wall, so we can count ourselves very lucky, and that was quick thinking just to really slow it down, get it in the gravel, try and drift it left, and get it back on circuit to keep ourselves going. But that was a very scary moment, heart-in-mouth stuff, as it is clearly time for the intermediates. Everyone is now in, but the likes of Leclerc, Piastri, Behrman behind me, they all pit one lap earlier, and they're going to get that advantage, but we were just following people ahead of us, including our own teammate. Tsunoda came in that lap, and so that delayed my pit stop ever so slightly. And you know, in those situations, you never know, you know, if you go too early, you know, you can get really caught out versus the AI, so it's always very tricky with that transition from dry to inters or vice versa on the F1 game. So ultimately we have lost out there. We're behind Alonso again. Albon, Behrman's actually jumped a lot of them, so clever thinking by our fellow compatriot, our old F2 teammate, to come in earlier and get some good pace going on the high-tech car. And other losers in this entire rain situation are Lewis Hamilton, because Verstappen is now the Red Bull that leads the way. Sainz is still second place, Lando's still third, but Hamilton now no longer P1, he is down in P4. Tsunoda has climbed up, he's in P5, but still a little bit of a head scratcher. You know, the rain obviously is going to change things, but in that first initial stint in the dry, Tsunoda really didn't look like he was making any sort of headway, you know, any sort of pace there. So definitely the upgrades, the 5 Ultimate upgrades, maybe not working as well around Portimao as they did at Sao Paulo. As Leclerc is now in P8, he's in the point, so he's recovering well. He needs to keep going, and so do I. We need to keep our head down. There's still well over 2/3 of this race to go. It's not looking amazing at the moment, but I'm believing in what we can do and what this car can do, and in the intermediates as well. It's a chance to show our skill as we try and dance the car around the outside of Fernando Alonso. He's going to leave the door open. He's squirreling away for grip as the two of us nearly side by side. Season 2 championship rivals here in Season 4. We're battling for the wooden spoon, it seems like, P14 and 15, but he's, unlike us, he's not got the car to carry on. We do, and we'll be looking now to pass Albon and Behrman, hopefully in quick succession, and get onto that bigger train of cars ahead as we close to Albon now on lap 12. No ERS usage needed, as we've just got that straight line speed, that lower drag as well of the car, and we will overtake Albon into turn 1 up to P13, and now on our way towards Ollie Behrman, who himself has joined that train. And as we look to close up onto the main straight onto lap 14, whilst we overtake the high-tech, Mark comes in with an important team radio.
The rain looks like it's going to be getting much lighter over the next 10 to 15 minutes. There should be more grip, but don't expect a dry track yet.
So the rain is expected to get lighter, and to be fair, you can kind of see that in a way. If you just follow the cars ahead of us off their rear tyres, there is somewhat of a drying line, or just basically a line where all the water is being kicked up off the ground. You know, F1 cars, some of the best hoovers of water around the circuit, flicking it up, obviously not helpful for visibility when you're following a car, but certainly helpful for drying the racing line. So whilst we're trying to make positions here, we also need to then start thinking, start just looking about and seeing and trying to judge the best time then of when we would get off this inter back onto the dries, if it is going to get that dry. The sun comes out and that circuit will properly dry up, because right now it still looks pretty wet out there. And as we make the move on Stroll, despite there being a bit of a racing line there, and I'm actually moving offline to try and, you know, cool the tyres and keep them in a good working range, if you actually notice, I almost think there's more rain falling out this sky right now. If you look at the halo and chassis specifically, like, ignore the track surface where clearly you can see the line where the cars are kicking up water. I think it's actually raining more. So Once again, Mark is just outstanding with his lack of awareness and completely wrong assessment of the situation as we overtake Perez, who's going quite slow in the McLaren compared to his teammate Lando Norris in the top 3. We're now in the top 10 for the first time in this race legitimately. It is certainly feeling a lot more treacherous. Forget about it going to dries. Forget about it seemingly, getting drier. It is raining heavier, and it is a big problem now for us in the final corner. Opposite lock, we somehow catch the car. We've had a few of those today where the car has got away from us and the back end has stepped out, and we live to fight for another day, but we lose the position to Sergio Perez. Yeah, I'm just going to ignore whatever Mark says now for the rest of this race. It is almost getting towards heavy rain. Full wet tyres, you would say, looking at the amount of spray, looking at the rain falling and the grip levels as Perez and Hulkenberg, they're in. Hamilton's in from the top 4. Look at the top left. Hamilton's onto the full wet tyres. So, yeah, Mark was completely wrong. I don't know what that radio message was about, but it's not getting drier. It's getting a lot wetter out here, and it's going to be full wet soon. But look at this. Despite all of these issues and still the car getting away from us, we're only 2 seconds now down the road from Leclerc. I can see the Ferrari up ahead of me, so we've actually still gained on one of our championship rivals here. That might be the most ideal situation when conditions are like this, if you're really struggling, if you're still able to catch your rival's head, it doesn't matter. That kind of just shows that this race is getting very difficult for everyone, and although it feels like we're very slow, we're actually doing a better job at coping than others, as Leclerc is in, Piastri's in, and also a third car of Sargent, of all people, in the high-tech, flying high in the points. But we continue on as we now overtake Verstappen, because I reckon that even though it is time for full wets technically, I think actually Mark spoke a little bit of wisdom, because I think, and I saw on the strategy screen earlier, yes, maybe it's getting to heavy rain right now, but only for a short amount of time. And I then actually think Mark was speaking some truth. It will get to drier times. It will get back to intermediates. And Sainz thinks the same thing. He's still out. He now takes the lead. Lando thinks the same. He's in second place. And our teammate thinks the same. He is still out in third place. So the top 4, and Behrman and Albon, the top 6, we're all still on intermediate. Verstappen is the lead car on the full wet tyres. Hamilton then a net P2 of the full wet runners, and Leclerc, to be fair, might jump up a couple of positions here now, having gone early, but maybe there's half a chance here. If the top 6 of us, if we carry on, maybe we can just survive through this period, and then we'll be on the right tyre once again, because there is a bit of a dry line still there forming, but Sainz bails, Lando bails, they're all bailing. Maybe it was too much of a gamble, but it's one that I'm willing to take, because what have we got to lose? We're in a good position. Red flag. Oh, yes. That is why you maybe continue on. That is what I'm talking about. How lucky is that? The red flag comes out at the best time, and we have now jumped up to P4 legit on the starting grid once we get back to 5 red lights. And it's actually ironically going to be Esteban Ocon that brings out that red flag, that helps us out, because he parks up, and I think it's a combination of that car on the runoff area in the grass, and also maybe the conditions the FI just thought maybe a bit too dangerous. So red flag is out. Unbelievable stroke of luck there. That's crazy, because we could have easily have come in on the previous lap with everyone else, and then we would have been screwed. But we stayed out, as did others, my teammates, Tsunoda, Lando, Sainz. So now, off the 5 red lights, it will be Sainz that leads us away, Lando second. It's a 3-4 for Toyota. All of a sudden, we're in a good position, but we've got a problem, because on the restart here, it's very hard to tell what tyre to go on to. Because the way I'm reading that weather forecast on the very top of that tyre window is it was full wet, but it's going to very quickly go into inters. So although the game, my engineers, my team, they've put me default on the wet tyres, I think, looking at that weather screen, it will get to inters very rapidly. So I think we should start at inters. And obviously that's the same logic I was going to have pre the red flag. I thought if we could survive the full wet period, we can get to the inter period again. Well, a red flag obviously delays things and brings that timeline forward. So I'm going to go for intermediates. It is a gamble because the game has put me on full wets, but I think this is the right call for us. And we're about to see if it's going to be a similar call for others. It is! Sonoda on inters, Lando and Sainz as well. But the rest of the grid are on full wets as we go to fire red lights for the second time today at Portimao. We're underway from the red flag. It's a slow getaway for Lando in the McLaren, our other championship rival. And Sonoda is slow again into turn one. Sainz waltzes off in the distance, but it's the wrong Ferrari in the lead. Leclerc is P15 now. He's way out the points, and we've just overtaken our other championship rival. All the luck has come our way. The red flag has done us the business, but oh no. No way. The gearbox is yellow. Wait, we're still going. I still have control. No! You are kidding me. Oh my god. Oh my god. We're out. We're out. The gearbox is seized up. Oh my lord. It was a full-blown engine failure up in smokes last episode. And today, back-to-back races, we are out. This time for a seized gearbox. Oh, I jinxed myself. I was too cocky there. I was gloating so much about our luck, our stroke of genius, our luck with the red flag overtaking Lando, and instead now we're out. And who knows where Lando will finish? Who knows if Leclerc can recover?
It's another victory and a champion's performance from Max Verstappen.
It's one thing to put fast laps together, but to make these moves stick without losing too much time, that's real racecraft.
Unbelievable. Max Verstappen's won it, but Leclerc's got second. How? Lando somehow bottled it down to P16, but Leclerc got a podium from P15 off that red flag. It now means, quite amazingly, going into the final race of this season, once again, it is a two-horse race for the Drivers' Championship between myself and Charles Leclerc, and he is leading by 3 points. How? Go off the back of Sao Paulo, I don't think any of you would have put money on that being the scenario. And also, you know what? Red Bull are now level on points with this in the championship. We're 22 points off Ferrari, both respectively. Is the Constructors over now? Because Sonoda had a mare in that race as well. It was all looking so amazing off the back of Sao Paulo. And it is completely flipped on its head. We leave Portimao to the last race, now chasing the championship in both standings. What on earth is this season?